Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, capital markets analyst and host of your Cannabis Business Podcast. Today we're going to be asking a question, are strains still important? So Headset's going to be digging into that strain sales data and try to answer that. All right, so taking a look at strains by state and province, this particular chart is showing top strains for each state that Headset tracks. So interesting to note that Blue Dream, by far and the most popular strain, only comes in at the top two markets, Alberta and Colorado. The other top selling strains are kind of a mixed bag, with Oregon picking up a classic Jack Herer. Looks like Washington has gravitated towards Wedding Cake. I definitely saw Wedding Cake as the most popular strain in 2019 when I did 20 stores on 420. This year it was dominated by Runts. 26% of the stores I went to said Runts was the most popular, followed by Ice Cream Cake. So definitely cookies are the most popular. So California picked Purple Punch. Nevada had Gorilla Glue number 4. Colorado with an old school Blue Dream. All right, looking at our Canadian cousins to the north, looking at what they're doing up there. BC likes their Pink Kush and Blue Dream for Alberta. All right, looking at last year's market share of the top 10 selling strains. We've got data on market share that demonstrates how profoundly the combination of regulation or culture and market maturity in each state or province can affect that sales outcome. In Canada, for example, both provinces are seeing a 25% of their market share going to their top strains, probably due to the relatively young youthfulness of the market. So older markets in the US, that doesn't exceed 14%, suggesting that the so-called green rush is good for marquee strains, which are the proverbial big fish in a little pond. So to that point, Washington State and California's top 10 strains sell at the full 14%. Nevada and Colorado, they see 10% of the sales going to the top 10 strains. Could be because of a few top brands in Washington control the lion's share of the market, while California may be due to an aggressive consolidation that's happening since the legalization. Either way, U.S. markets have significantly more product diversity than the newer Canadian ones, so it's harder for any one strain, even an exceptionally popular one, to dominate. So if we break that down, looking at the top 5 strains by category, concentrates, flower, pre-roll, and vape pens, you can actually see the variability between product categories. So Blue Dream, it does come in the top list for preferred strains for flower and concentrates, but pre-rolls made from the same raw material as flower sell more gelato than anything else. So while Blue Dream takes the top honors in 2 categories and second place among vape pens, it's noted that gelato also appears as the top 5 in all inhalable categories. So gelato's rankings are lower. So it's safe to say that these are the 2 most consistent popular strains. Should also be noted from this data that it's for the US only. So Canada has only begun selling concentrates and vape pens. So that data is not going to be available until late June at the earliest. So non-strain specific products are now a thing. Blue Dream is perhaps the strain with the most name recognition, also has a strain that started out with the most market share, recently overtaken by Wedding Cake. Moreover, both have been overtaken by products that aren't made with one specific strain and are simply labeled in this graph indica or sativa. We also see that Blue Dream, along with some classic strains like Sour Diesel, they've flattened out in the trend lines. Both strains predominate legalization, so they're familiar to a lot of customers previously and have always enjoyed a larger market share. But they don't appear to be gaining a lot of new customers. There's newer strains with non-strain specific products that are starting to win people over. So breaking this down by age group based on 2019, you can see that data by generation shows perhaps the most unsurprising bit of information that people really like Blue Dream. So it's the top overall strain across all generations. Wedding Cake and Purple Punch, for the newcomers, they've got a strong showing here, as well as Gelato, which was a winner across categories. But most interesting is the fact that Jack Herer is the second favorite strain of Gen Xers, baby boomers, and the silent generation. So a lot of strong CBD in there with a good almost 1-to-1 THC to CBD ratio. Jack Herer is a pretty good strain. So let's see if price has anything to do with buying behavior. Looking at the price of the top 2019 strains, first thing that should jump out is that products are labeled simply as indica dominant or sativa dominant have the highest total sales, but also the lowest price per gram. So it means that dominating the market via volume, not premium prices, and a shift towards non-strain specific products should absolutely be interpreted as a shift towards value products. So all of the popular strain names, and especially the newcomers like Purple Punch and Wedding Cake, have a higher EQ price than total sales. So the relationship between the price per gram and sales isn't hard and fast. So a strain can be both expensive and popular if it's got a reputation like Blue Dream, but a low price per gram and a high sales volume is definitely indicative of a value product. So taking a look at strain saturation, this chart has an overall sales rank compared to its brand count rank, which is a measure of how many brands sell that strain. So Blue Dream is both the top selling strain and the strain that's sold by the most brands. So it's a number one in each category. But looking at the difference between these numbers tells us a lot about how well loved a given strain is, or in other words, how oversaturated the market is with it. So new strains like Wedding Cake and Purple Punch are interesting because for the second and third best-selling strains, they have relatively low brand ranking. So it means that the strains are doing quite well for the brands producing them. And conversely, strains with a lower sales ranking than other brand rankings are probably not doing well for the people growing them, suggesting that there's a market is saturated with those strains. Sour Diesel, for example, a popular sativa that's been around for ages, it's only the sixth best-selling strain, but has the second highest number of brands selling it. The story's even worse for Gorilla Glue number 4, which is 13th in sales and third on brand representation. I've talked about Blue Dream in 2008 being really, really good. It's not the same anymore. So when someone grows it and it changes, not just through lineage, it could just be because it has a different terpene profile. So really, we shouldn't be going based on strain names. We should be going based on a different profile makeup. All right, so some of the key takeaways is that Blue Dream is a very big deal, but not necessarily the top strain in every state or province. Younger markets are easier for big name strains to dominate, while more mature markets with more product diversity see a smaller share of sales to top strains. People's strain preferences change based on their method of consumption, with only Gelato and Blue Dream appearing in the top 5 strains for all inhalable categories. Products labeled with no specific strain are gaining rapidly in popularity, which is driven in part by their bargain pricing. Every generation loves Blue Dream, but the older generation seems to be the only ones with a preference for Jack Herer, possibly due to the increased familiarity with the role in medicinal cannabis. And some strains are selling very well despite only being produced by a few growers, while others are underperforming relative to how many brands grow them. So clearly the way consumers see strains is shifting. The biggest story here is that the rise in non-specific strain products, which we suspect is the beginning of a bigger trend, as cannabis becomes increasingly popular and grows into its new role as a moderately risque consumer packaged good, the consumer base will change drastically. While longtime customers and connoisseurs aren't going anywhere, they're being joined in droves by casual users who may not care too much about the subtle differences between Jack Herer or Sour Diesel. While many people consider sativa and indica to be outdated terms, they do serve a very simple way to convey different cannabis experiences. So while we need to steer away from strain names, they are still at this point an integral part of the cannabis economy. So there's still some super strains like Blue Dream that do really well with pretty much everyone, as the newer strains like Purple Punch and Wedding Cake seems to have captured the market imagination. So it's safe to say that while non-strain specific products will likely continue to gain market share, cannabis will continue to be cultivated and marketed in the framework of strains for a long time. I definitely think we'll see a more discerning customer that wants different types of profiles, as well as expectation. So I would expect that your phone and some hardware will start talking, and there will be machine learning, an AI-based system that will tell you based on a flower that you set your cannabis into. That machine will tell you what that expected result will be. So everyone knows what to expect from tequila, wine, or beer, and so we're just moments away from having the technology tell that to us. So I would expect accurate dosing to come more to the forefront, along with getting away from strain names and more towards terpenes. So terpenes are kind of that steering wheel, whereas the percentage of CBD or THC is the gas pedal, how fast it's going to get you there. So utilizing terpenes and technology, I think, will be the future to tell us really what the expectation is, and we're going to get away from strain names. Names can be slapped on anything. It doesn't really tell you what to expect. So I think that's an outdated way of doing it, but that's just my opinion. What's yours? Leave a comment, let me know. With that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't.